So I will read the script and then we'll call the roll. It's being 10:30. As chair of the House ED&A Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with House Rule 67 and the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. This is an executive session on bills referred to the committee and scheduled in the House calendar for today. The executive session may be held on any bill referred to in the committee. There is no physical location for members of the public to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that all members of the committee and select legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through the Zoom electronic meeting platform. And the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if invited, participate in this meeting by the Zoom platform or by telephone. All necessary access information has been made available in the House calendar and through the electronic calendar on the General Court website. The notice for this meeting complies with House rules and RSA 91A. Anyone who has a problem accessing the meeting should call 271-3600 or email hcs@leg.state.nh.us. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. All votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. And we'll start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states they're present, please also state whether there's anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Mr. Clerk.
Representative Allegro.
Present.
Representative Bailey. No Representative Bailey. Representative Fellows.
I'm sorry, Representative Sitek. Representative Bailey is here, but he's muted, so he can't.
Okay, I did not see.
He's
There he
there.
is. You're correct. Representative Bailey, please unmute and say hello.
I don't know what I can't tell.
Well, he is muted, but Representative Bailey, hi.
Present, at home, alone. The mute is rather tardy. The unmute, I mean.
Okay.
It takes its sweet time.
Representative Fellows.
Home alone.
Okay, Representative Fontenot.
I am present at home and my wife is here.
Representative Goley.
Home, and my wife is in the other room.
Representative Groda.
Home, and my family is here.
Representative Judy. Do we see Representative Judy anywhere?
He had a morning appointment. He'll be a little late today.
Little late today. Okay. Give me a poke when you see him, please. Representative Lanzara.
I am home and my family is in the area.
Okay. Representative Lekis.
Present in the committee room.
Representative McGuire.
Present in the committee room.
Representative O'Brien.
Present, I'm at home in Nashua.
You by yourself?
Oh, yes, I am by myself. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry to hear that. All right. Representative Pearson.
I'm omnipresent. I'm in Manchester and there's going to be people around, but no one of substance.
Did you say omnipresent? That's pretty terrific. Representative Roy.
It's a gift.
Here in the committee room.
Representative Santonastasso.
Present in the committee room.
Representative Schmidt.
Thank you. I am here at my home office in Dover. I am alone.
Representative Short.
Hello, I am here at my home in Pembroke alone.
Representative Schultz.
I am at my residence in Concord. My husband, Gene Taylor, will be in and out of the room. Thank you.
Okay, the clerk is present in the committee room. Representative Yakubovich.
Present.
In the committee room. Okay. We're waiting on Representative Judy.
Representative Schultz, your microphone is very quiet.
For us in the cyber space as well, very hard to hear her.
Okay. Well, she did promise she'd be quiet today, so that may be it. All right, Representative Shuett, yes, you have a question?
Actually, I'm raising my hand to make a motion if that's in order.
On House Bill 283?
Correct.
Okay, we'll do that. Actually, if you could wait a bit, I'd like to do 128, which we noticed so we have to accept that one today. And then we'll get to you.
All right, fine, thank you.
All right. Okay, so Representative Santonastasso, you have a motion on House Bill 128.
Yes, Madam Chair, I move to make a motion to pass 128 OTP.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Do you wish to speak to your motion?
I could just be brief. The weather modification notice, the statute has basically gone unused the entire time it's been enacted. But if one of these agencies want to start doing weather modification, I think public notice is just appropriate.
Okay. President Blackus?
I agree with that. The only addition is that for some people, it's a touchy subject, and if we do it, they'll think it's something sneaky going on. If we do it without notice, they think there's something sneaky going on. And it's just the best thing to do is to announce it up front.
And I'd like to report that as requested, I spoke with the chair of Science, Technology, and Energy, and he looked at the bill and said, we don't care about notification requirements. When they had it last year, they were concerned about the process of weather modification, and that's why they had issues with it. This time, it's our bailiwick.
This has nothing to do with Roswell, does it?
Those are aliens.
Oh, never mind. All
Now they're
right.
confirmed.
Roswell is not in New Hampshire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Geography impaired.
All right. Does anyone else wish to comment on House Bill 128?
I would like to say, Madam Chair, that, have to get myself unmuted here.
You're unmuted, Representative Schmidt.
Thank you. I absolutely agree that we should not be tinkering with the weather with no advance notification of the public. That is becoming more and more, significant, the weather fluctuations that we're naturally experiencing, and the temptation to try to do something about that must be strong in scientists and technologists. But if it's going to be done, we simply cannot be keeping the public in the dark about this.
Representative Goley?
Thank you, Madam. A couple of members on Science and Technology, Representative Sansich, Representative McGee, and we also spoke with a Roger Stevenson from the Union of Concerned Scientists, and they all see no problem with this as well. So I'll be supporting it.
Thank you. I'm glad you did. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, the motion is ought to pass by Representative Santonastasso. And when ready, the clerk will call the roll.
Representative Roy.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Yakubovich.
Yes.
Representative Lekis.
Yes.
Representative Allegro.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Yes.
Okay, Representative Lanzara.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Representative,
was Representative Bailey's vote a yes?
Representative Bailey, repeat your vote, please. Representative Bailey, going once. You voted.
Could I just ask the clerk, what did you hear? I didn't hear.
I heard roof, and I took it to be yes. I asked him to
Please
repeat.
repeat your vote, Representative Bailey.
I'm having trouble with the unmute button. Yes was my vote.
Thank you.
Y-E-S, yeah.
Don't you understand roof? Representative Santonastasso.
Yes.
Representative Goley.
Yes.
Representative Schuett,
Yes.
Representative Schmidt,
Uh-oh. He's
Representative-
not, he's muted.
that's
Uh,
unusual.
Okay, so my vote is yes.
Representative Schultz,
Yes.
Representative Fellows,
Yes.
Representative Fontenot,
Yes.
Representative Grota,
Oui.
Representative O'Brien,
Yes.
and the chair.
Yes.
Looks like 18-0.
Does anyone object to consent? Okay, 18-0 on consent. And committee reports are due at your earliest convenience, like Monday would be good. All right, thank you very much. And actually, if you'll excuse us, Representative Schuett, I'd like to take up House Bill 544 because we have Representative Ammon with us to explain his amendment. And I'd like to, and he has to leave at 11. So,
That's fine.
okay, so Representative Roy, you have a motion.
I'd like to move amendment to Bill 544. The amendment number is 2021-0611H.
Okay,
What was the last four, please? Jim?
0611H as in hotel.
and I will second that amendment. His motion is, of course, ought to pass with that amendment.
Yes, correct.
Okay, and
Well, we do adopt the amendment first.
we do adopt the amendment first, yes.
And
Madam Chair?
Yes, Representative Goley?
Well, I do understand Representative Ammon is here to introduce the amendment and talk about the amendment. Can we hold off a final vote until Representative Judy joins us? This is an important bill to him and he would like to be present on the final vote.
That should not be a problem, but I did promise Representative Ammon we'd be able to let him out after, so he can make his other commitment.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so the motion is ought to pass on the amendment, and
I would like to ask Representative Hammond to speak to his amendment.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members of the committee, both here and remote. Introducing, or I'd like to speak to Amendment 611H, and this is an amendment to House Bill 544. The amendment cleans up a little bit of the language in two of the sections, and then it adds a new section to the general provisions that would cover or exempt things like CARES Act funding, funding that businesses have received during the state of emergency. So that's just a brief overview. I'll go over the exact changes. So in section C1, Roman 1, in the section of contractor, it adds the language that in any manner have entered into a contract to perform a service for. So it enters that twice, to perform a service for. And so this would be an actual service being provided to the state, not something for pencils or some supplies. That's a product. So you see the difference there. It changes a few things in RSA 10C:2 Roman V, subsection A1. And it just cleans up some of the language. We got some feedback that some of the language was redundant. So I'm on page 3 of the amendment near the bottom, and I'm in section 1 there, where it starts the head of each agency. It strikes the word shall use his or her authority under. So it'll just read, the head of each agency shall ensure that the agent employees and so forth. So it strikes some of that redundant language there. And then on line 3, it removes the statement for purposes of the section, comma, training in quotes. It takes that out because that was also viewed as redundant. And then finally, in that same section, the very last line, it adds the Roman numeral 2. So it'll read RSA 10-C:1, comma, Roman 2, which is the list of divisive concepts in the definition section. And then the last change that I mentioned in the general provisions on page 4, it adds a new Roman numeral 3 and renumbers the previous 3 to 4.
And I'll just read that for the record. It says, nothing in this chapter is meant to include as a contract or subcontract certain government financial assistance, including but not limited to the taking or receiving of loans, tax credits, tax incentives, tax abatements, or gifts deriving from money sent from the federal government or agency designed or meant to assist during or after a declared emergency, including but not limited to health, weather, riot, civil disobedience, or acts of foreign agents, or designed as economic stimulus during economic emergency. So there was a summer camp for kids that raised this issue. They received care money. Would this bill affect them? And so that provision was put in to exempt situations, unusual situations like we've had this last year, so that if the state was distributing money designed as stimulus or to make a business whole for having to shut down because of emergencies, that they'd be exempted from this. So that concludes my explanation.
Okay. Are there any questions for Representative Ammon?
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Yes, Representative Schmidt.
Thank you. Representative Ammon, I'm not seeing the language that you have just read to us in the copy that I was sent. So I'm just questioning you, as you were reading it, you used the word, I couldn't tell whether you were saying insure or ensure. And I just want to make sure that we don't use the word insure, which has two meanings in English, the more common being not the desired meaning here. So does the copy read ensure?
It doesn't use either word, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm speaking to the amendment, which is a single page document.
Right.
The section he was reading is line 17 through 22 on the amendment. And I don't see the word insure or ensure.
I think I may have used the word ensure. So that was is that the correct use of the word?
Yes, sorry, it's on line 9. The head of each agency shall ensure that the agency.
Oh, that's correct.
Thank you both. That's my issue.
That's line 9.
I have similar peeves, like when people pronounce the word sandwich and they say sandwich. That just hurts my ears when I hear that.
Okay, Representative Lekis returning to the amendment.
Is my understanding accurate that this amendment does two things: removes redundancy and just narrows the scope of what this bill would apply to?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Representative Schuett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Ammon, it appears that you've made a couple of carve-outs for groups regarding this bill, receiving federal funds and so forth. Does this not indicate to you that there may be further unintended consequences from groups that just are not aware of this bill yet?
No, it doesn't. And, sometimes it's a tactic to sow doubt about a bill to get people to, feel unsure of it. That amendment deals with private, it clarifies that private companies, private providers of services are not covered by this, that it's only state institutions, which is the RSA that this is amending.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Representative Broda.
Thank you. Representative Ammon, the summer camp that you referred to, where is it and what is it?
I'm not at liberty to say.
And why is that?
Because it's I don't have it. I don't have knowledge of that exact summer camp right now. I'd have to go look at notes.
Follow up, please.
Yes, follow up.
Thank you. In my district, we have the Seco Science Center, which is a museum. It's a marine museum and a training and a children's camp for that rents property from the state of New Hampshire. Oregon Point is a state park, and the Seco Science Center is located there. So would they be subject to this bill?
Do they perform a service for the state of New Hampshire?
No,
Then it's my understanding they wouldn't be.
well, I'm bringing up the camp analogy because now I'm curious as to
Yeah, so you're
whether or not.
getting focused on a camp, but what the amendment doesn't deal with camps. It deals with any business, including restaurants, all of the businesses that have received money because of the COVID situation. That's what that new section to the bill does, is it says, even though you receive state money because of a state of emergency, that this would not apply to you because you're not doing business for the state in your normal course.
No.
It has nothing to do with summer camps. It has to do with just about every business in our state who's received money because of CARES Act funding for employees and payroll because of COVID, because of the state of emergency. That's what that deals with.
Please don't be impatient with me because my questions are sincere. And I can fixate on camps because that is my constituent. And I want to be sure that they are not put in a bad position because of this bill. So my questions are sincere and they are directly related to an important constituent in my community.
May I respond to that?
Fine, but
Yeah. Well,
I hope that his assurance that since the camp that you refer to is not performing a service for the state, they are not covered by the bill.
That's fine. That's all I need to know. Thank you, Representative. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Representative Ammon? Okay, then thank you very much for your help in this bill.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Well, that's extraordinary. In that case, the motion is ought to pass on Amendment 0611H to House Bill 544.
Adopt.
What?
Adopt.
To adopt the amendment, yes. And when ready, the clerk can call the roll.
Representative Roy,
Yes.
clerk votes yes. Representative Pearson,
Yes.
Representative Yakubovich, Representative Lekis,
Yes.
Representative Allegro,
Yes.
Representative Bailey,
Yes.
Representative Lansara,
Yes.
Representative Santonastaso,
Yes.
Representative Goley,
Yes on the amendment.
Representative Schuett.
Yes, on the amendment.
That's what we're doing, the amendment. Representative Judy is not yet here, or is he here? All
I don't
right,
see him.
well, I'm just checking. Representative Schmidt,
Yes, on the amendment.
Representative Schultz?
No.
No. Representative Fellows,
Yes on the amendment.
Representative Fontenot,
Yes.
Representative Grota,
Yes.
Representative O'Brien,
Yes.
Chair.
Yes,
Looks like 17-1.
right, that's it. The amendment is adopted, and as requested, we will not continue with this bill until Representative Judy is here.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
No trouble, so Representative Schuett has a motion.
Yes, Madam Chair. I would move Amendment 0540H on House Bill 283.
I'll second that.
Schmidt.
Okay, would you care to explain your amendment?
Yes, I spoke with the chair, the prime sponsor, I'm sorry, and she appreciates the fact that there is reticence in our committee to put anything more into the statutes naming days. And since this is in fact coming up on the 275th anniversary of Mr. Cheswell's birth, it seemed to me that it was a rather important anniversary to recognize. So I had the amendment drafted to just proclaim this for the one day for this year. And I would further request, Madam Chair, we adopt this amendment and pass the bill if there's any way that we could attempt to expedite the House's action on it as we're coming up close to the deadline date. I'm sorry, the actual date of the celebration, I should say.
Okay, in response to my second, I would say that Wentworth Cheswell is definitely worthy of a one-time commemoration. And I hope that the town of Newmarket will honor him every year because that's the most appropriate place for it. I don't know when the House will next meet, but I would suggest that we get this out of our committee and over to the House so that it can be passed at the earliest opportunity.
I would appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything to say? Representative Saitek.
Sure, but there's a bigger picture here because we have Ona Judge Staines also, and I really would like to discuss both of these together because I like the idea of naming the building at Pease after this man, actually. I sort of am concerned that my education has been 15 minutes on this, and I'd like to get more comfortable with it, but I really want to go in this direction. I'm not really discussing this amendment, and I'll stop at this point, but there's a bigger picture here is all I'm saying.
Yes, I think we can discuss naming the airport terminal under the other bill.
Yes.
We will note that you prefer Mr. Cheswell. Representative Schmidt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I too want to second your remark. Since we've heard that Mr. Cheswell is going to have a statute in Newmarket, and he was a citizen of some note there for virtually his entire career. So I'm glad to learn about him. Had never heard of him before, but I think it's significant, and I would like to see the commemoration happen this day, this year, and on the 275th anniversary if we can manage it. But I agree with you that the Newmarket statue is the appropriate, long-term honoring of this gentleman.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, the motion is to accept Amendment 0540H to House Bill 283. The clerk can call the roll.
Representative Roy.
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Yakubovich.
Yes.
Representative Lekis.
Yes.
Representative Allegro.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Yes.
Representative Lanzara.
Yes.
Representative Santonastaso.
Yes.
Representative Goley.
Yes.
Representative Schuett.
Yes.
Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Schultz.
Yes.
Representative Fellows.
Yes.
Representative Fontenot.
Yes.
Representative Grota.
Yes.
Representative O'Brien.
Yes.
The chair,
Yes,
18-0 on the amendment,
All
adopting
right.
amendment.
and Representative Schuett, you have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move that House Bill 283 be adopted with the amendment.
Second that.
Second.
Who
I
is,
couldn't tell who was first.
In the interest of bipartisanship, I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm happy to defer to Representative Pearson.
All right,
Thank you, Representative Pearson.
very good. Is there any further discussion?
I think we've probably covered everyone's opinion. The only thing I will say, I'm sorry that Representative Judy has not made it back to be able to on this, I'm sure this would be of great import to him also.
Okay, well, he can bask in the glow of a committee recommendation. Right, the motion is ought to pass with amendment on House Bill 283, and the clerk can call the roll.
Representative Roy.
Enthusiastically, yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Yakubovich.
Yes.
Representative Lekis.
Yes.
Representative Allegro.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Yes.
Representative Lanzara.
Yes.
Representative Santo-Nastasa.
Yes.
Representative Goley. Representative
Yes.
Goley? Yeah, okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you. Representative Schuett,
Enthusiastically, yes.
and the shadow votes yes. Representative Schmidt,
Yes.
Representative Schultz,
Yes.
Representative Fellows,
Yes.
Representative Fontenot,
Yes.
Representative Grote,
Yes.
Representative O'Brien,
Yes.
and the chair.
Yes,
No, 18 to none, 0.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, I should have a report to you this afternoon. in hopes
excellent.
that we
I
can
will
get-
forward it as quickly as possible.
Thank you very much. Very appreciated.
Does anyone object to consent? Okay, seeing none, we'll put it on consent, which also helps it to go faster. Moving right along, I move to retain House Bill 170 commemorating the first labor strike in the U.S. by women.
Second.
Seconded by Representative Roy. And I'm moving that because we have a very severely limited amount of time in session due to the difficulties of arrangements and so we have been asked not to pass or not to move to the floor anything that we think will have a debate if it's not a vitally important bill. And I think this qualifies as not vitally important. Since it was 1828, this isn't even a specific timing for any anniversary. It'll be just as valid to declare this starting next year. So I suggest that we retain.
Madam Chair, I also have a point.
I'm sorry, Representative Pearson?
The other thing, doing a little research, the bill is actually historically inaccurate. The first labor strike that was done predominantly by women was done in Pawtucket, Rhode Island in May of 1824.
Oh.
Madam Chair, I actually think that this has been debated by historians, and the majority say the New Hampshire one was first.
Representative Schultz, how can 1828 be before 1824?
The nature of the labor dispute, as I understand it. It's sort of like when people claim to have invented the cheeseburger in a way. A lot of places claim to have invented the cheeseburger. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
historians say the first one is the one in New Hampshire because of the extent of the labor dispute compared to what happened in Rhode Island wasn't an extensive labor unionization.
Thank you. That gives me even more reason to say we should postpone this debate if the historians argue. Representative Schuett.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm just curious, is this an attempt to enable New Hampshire to make that claim?
Again, I think that if we want to, I think we need to look into this a little further. And I don't have the time to work on it this year. All right. Representative Goley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, you know as well as I know that we get 4 or 5, maybe sometimes 6 bills each year looking to name days for the governor to proclaim on a yearly basis. There's currently a list that is growing every year in statute. And I think sometimes it's a disservice for some of those because if you look at the list, most people don't know what those days are or are unaware of them. So I'm not sure that they actually do what they're intended to do. And, you know, I think it's nice that the governor proclaim maybe once or twice to get something kicked off. And then the organization keeps the ball rolling. So I will support the retain because I think it's just going a little too far. Thank you.
Yes, well, if you think we should be killing this bill instead, I'm okay with that too. Representative Saitek.
I'll have what Representative Goli had.
Actually, that's a good point. If Representative Schmidt, you have your hand raised?
I do, Madam Chair. Being a representative of Dover, and I would like to point out to the committee, and in support of your motion to retain the bill, and especially in light of the somewhat uncertainty as to whether Rhode Island was first and so forth, City of Dover has actually already had a celebration, and there was a video created that was quite instructive with regard to this event. It's something that the City of Dover clearly thinks is of significance, and we may find in our treatment of it in the retention period that we come to understand and also firm up the historical accuracy and perhaps even see the video. So I'm in favor of the retention motion.
Thank you. Representative Saitek?
You know, this is not going to be pleasant, but I'm going to say it. The fact is we gave Pollyanna Day or whatever that thing is. And this is far more significant as far as I am concerned. The first women's strike, even though not successful, or walkout, whatever. This deserves some kind of real commemoration if we're going to do Pollyanna Day. Well, I've said it.
What he said.
All right, well, that's fine. I sense there's not a strong opinion in favor of ought to pass, but we'll retain it. Representative Schmidt will do some research in Dover and
I will, happily.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I do have a question. I'm sorry. Is my hand not raised?
Yes, it is. Sorry, I didn't.
That's okay. That's okay. I just want to make sure that my hand is working.
It was raised, yes.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that, and I'm sure that you're able to manage this, but I just want to be sure that if we retain bills, we're going to work on them. And I'm concerned at the number of bills that we retained so far. So that, what are your plans on? Are you going to put subcommittees together to work on these bills? What are your plans on?
I've set up subcommittees already,
Yeah.
and in most cases, I'll assign the bills after crossover because I don't think we'll be retaining any Senate bills. Once we get through crossover, we'll set it up, and I think that the subcommittees ought to meet relatively soon, like in April or May, to make a plan for the bills.
Okay.
On this
thank
one,
you.
I think the subcommittee is going to say, Representative Schmidt, give us a report in October, and we'll vote on it then. Others will take more work by more people.
Yes, I'm especially concerned about the daycare bill, the daycare. So
Exactly. That
to
one
get
will take
lost.
some serious work.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, Representative Schultz.
Am I unmuted? Yes.
You are.
Just to be clear, the AFL-CIO says that the first union created by women, working women, was the Lowell Female Labor Reform Association, and that this was the first strike. The AFL-CIO says that. I just wanted to clarify.
Marvelous. We will have a history lesson when we get back to this. Representative
Grota, this is a question for you. Do you have any summer plans?
I do, but early in the summer. And I can take my computer with me everywhere I go.
That'll help with the research. Okay, the motion is to retain House Bill 170. And seeing no further discussion, the clerk will call the roll.
Representative Roy,
Yes.
the clerk votes yes. Representative Pearson,
Yes.
Representative Yakubovich,
Yes.
Representative Lekis,
Yes.
Representative Allegro,
Yes.
Representative Bailey,
Yes.
Representative Lanzara,
Yes.
Representative Santa Nastasa,
Yes.
Representative Goley,
Yes.
Representative Schuett,
Yes.
Representative Schmidt,
Yes.
Representative Schultz,
Yes.
Representative Fellows,
Yes.
Representative Fontenot,
Yes.
Representative Groden,
Yes.
Representative O'Brien,
Yes.
the chair,
Yes,
18-0.
okay. One more on our file. Retained bills don't have to go on consent.
But
You don't have to do anything with them.
I guess we're.
We have consented. The House doesn't get a vote until January. One other thing is that I was thinking about the emergency powers bills, and I've come up with a bit of an amendment to House Bill 217 that I'll be distributing to the committee for comment. It's not ready to vote on yet, but I would appreciate any comments that you have. I'll be sending that out. Beg your pardon?
217 or 417?
417. Sorry, I may have misspoken. All right. Do you have those the green exec summaries?
Yes, I do.
I'll take one.
All
right. I don't see Representative Judy yet, so we will not do that one.
Little crinkly, but there it
That's
is.
fine. All right. Not there. In that case, we should, Representative Sytek, you have a motion on House Bill 273.
Ought to pass.
Second.
Okay.
Could we please have a refresher course on what is the title of House Bill 273, please?
It's the memory of the 26th Amendment.
Thank you.
50th anniversary. And this one is time critical. So it's ought to pass by Representative Sytek, seconded by Representative Roy. Do you wish to speak to your motion?
Briefly, and that is that it's hard to think of more significant events in our constitutional republic or amendments that were made. This is a significant, I'm not a big fan of days and memorials, but this is a one-time thing. It is, it's hard to think of something that trumps this, maybe I don't want to use that verb, that's better than this. So I think the Memorial Day is fitting.
Representative Roy?
I would just adopt what Representative Sytek has said.
Okay. There's anyone else wish to comment? Yes, Representative Schuett.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just state that I believe that Representative Sytek, Schmidt, and I probably all started voting well before this age was lowered. So I think it's an important thing to recognize that this enabled a lot more of our citizenry to chime in on issues of national importance.
At the risk of exposing my age, I turned 18 that summer and voted in the local elections in 1971 for the first time.
I can't remember anything before high school, so it doesn't
Well, I
matter.
graduated from high school that year, so it's
If I may,
Yes,
I
Representative Roy.
just want to add that it's It's as important today as it was then, but at that particular time, I think it had a lot of importance because we had young people serving in Vietnam who were old enough to serve, but not old enough to vote. And we, as a society, decided to correct that.
Or drink.
Or drink, indeed.
Yes, actually, the drinking age wasn't lowered until the next year.
Yes. That was all. Thank you.
No. Anyone else have a comment? Representative Allegro.
I remember this debate at the time, and even though I was a very young man, I never understood the logic of being able to send people off to war without giving them the opportunity to vote on those sending them and to have a beer when they got home. However, I do have to say that if we had a memorial or a day for every single wrong that we corrected in our 200+ year history, we would be even more inundated than we are now. So I'm not in favor of this, but I'm in favor of what happened, but not of the bill.
It is a one-time event.
Oh, okay.
It's a one
Thank
time.
you. That helps. Thank you.
And I would also say that my first duty station was West Germany. I was 18 and the drinking age did not matter to me. So I was good to go.
Yes, Colonel Sytek.
Representative Allegro is going to be heading up the subcommittee on enlarging the calendar.
Not sure about that joke.
It's a special treat. Okay. So the motion is ought to pass on House Bill 273 made by Representative Sytek. And when ready, the clerk can call the roll.
Representative Roy.
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Vote Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Yakubovich.
Yes.
Representative Lekis.
Yes.
Representative Allegro.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Yes.
Representative Lanzara.
Yes.
Representative Santonastaso.
Yes.
Representative Goley.
Yes.
Representative Schuett.
Yes.
Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Schultz.
Yes.
Representative Fellows.
Yes.
Representative Fontenot.
Yes.
Representative Grote.
Yes.
Representative O'Brien.
Yes.
The chair,
Yes.
18-0.
All right. Does anyone object to consent?
Yes, Madam Chair.
And it'll be on the regular calendar.
May I, are we going to vote on the yes, on the consent, or was it only one person? I just think that
No.
in light of,
Only one person, any one person can take something off consent. So one person is all that's needed to keep it from going on consent in the first place.
What was the final
can I
vote?
ask my colleague to reconsider since our days in the House are
Why
going
I
to be
wanna
very
do it?
long, and I don't really think a floor debate on this is necessary.
I would say that with an 18-0 committee recommendation, the chances of a floor debate are minimal.
Well, I'd like to point out that the lead sponsor of the bill is the Democratic leader, and this is a wonderful moment of bipartisanship, and I know the speaker is seeking those moments as well. And I'm so happy to see bipartisan support for 18 to 20-year-olds voting. It probably won't be a long thing on the House floor, but isn't it nice to have? So no, I'm not withdrawing my.
Okay. That's no problem. Representative Fellows?
Yes, Madam Chair. I just wanted to point out that the date that we're trying to celebrate is May 13th of this year, and that's not very far away. If it's on the consent calendar, we know the first day that the House meets, it will pass and it can go on. And if it's not on the consent calendar, we might not even get to it in those 3 days, or we'll get to it in the last of the 3 days.
It's fortunately, we're relatively early in the alphabetical order, so it's likely to come up on the first day. In fact, last session, our bills came up before lunch for the first part. And yes, we'll do our best to make sure it's efficiently handled.
And Madam Chair, I just want to add, I totally respect the remarks you made at the beginning of our exec session about what the consent calendar does, etc. And I'm mindful of all of that. Just want to say I am mindful of that while I made my objection to consent.
That's fine. Representative Saitek.
First, a couple of sentences on the floor. This is not going to take any more time than for the speaker to read it. There's not going to be a fight. But the point that you did not make, Representative Schultz, is this. This is in the consent calendar, things are often buried. It'd be nice that the House actually saw this for the brief moment that it takes. Well,
Thank you, Representative Saitek. That's what I meant to say.
All right, excellent.
Let's move on before. Duncan breaks
Moving
out.
on before we have another, all right.
Madam Chair, if I may just ask a question of the chair.
Sure.
I'm curious, I'm still not seeing the status of House Bill 130, which our committee voted on back February 18th.
I will check and see what happened to it.
Thank you.
And I will mention, Representative Schuett, that I was looking at House Bill 2, and there's a section in there that deals with that issue. So if you would take a look at House Bill 2 and see what,
Thank you.
if it agrees.
Yes, Madam Chair, I did actually see that. Someone called it to my attention, and I'm not quite sure. I believe that that is something being put forward by Administrative Services. And therefore, that's why I'm concerned about having this committee's opinion go forward, because we voted on it before that even appeared.
Exactly.
Thank
If you would check House Bill 2 to see if it, to see how it compares, and we will, I'll mention to Finance that we've already voted on House Bill 130, and it should take precedence.
Thank
But
you.
We'll see.
Ah.
All right, next, what else have we got? All right, and I'm also going to move to retain House Bill 204, which is Granny D-Day.
I'll second that.
was that Representative Schultz?
Yes, it was. Unless Representative Goley suggests we should just kill it, but I think it would be, that would involve more debate than a retained motion.
I'll support retain. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
I believe, Chair, is it not true that I believe the governor does proclaim this every year anyway, does he not?
He has on more than one occasion. I don't know every year. I can't see that the 111th birthday is more significant than the 112th that'll be next year. I mean, it's,
I agree.
so, all right. Anyone else want to comment on retaining House Bill 204? Okay, seeing none, the motion is to retain, and the clerk can call the roll.
Representative Roy.
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Pearson. A little louder, please.
Yes.
Representative Yakubovich.
Yes.
Representative Lekis.
Yes.
Representative Allegro.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Yes.
Representative Lanzara.
Yes.
Representative Santonastaso.
Yes.
Representative Goley.
Yes.
Representative Schuett.
Yes.
Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Schultz.
Yes.
Representative Fellows.
Yes.
Representative Fontenot.
Yes.
Representative Grote.
Yes.
Representative O'Brien.
Yes.
And the chair.
Yes,
18-0.
all right. That doesn't need a report. All right. So, Representative Allegro, you have a motion.
Yes, on House Bill 606, and that is on exempting haircutting and aesthetics practice without remuneration. I'd like to move ought to pass.
Second.
All
I'm
right.
sorry, what was that?
This is House Bill 606, which we debated somewhat at our last session, but didn't complete.
Who was the second?
Representative Roy,
Thank you.
you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, and I'm not going to go through everything I went through the other day when we actually began debate on this. I'll just simply say that government was never intended to interfere with personal relationships and friendly activities between neighbors, friends, and family. Meanwhile, the current legal structure, which this bill would alleviate, the current legal structure indicates that it's a Class A misdemeanor for me to cut my wife's hair. I think that's way beyond the pale. And activity between consenting adults or consenting adult and a child for whom they have care and custody of, again, should not be interfered with by the government. So if I choose to clip my granddaughter's toenails. Lastly, I hear a lot of evidence about the perils of putting chemicals in people's hair, chemicals like Head and Shoulders shampoo and Miss Clairol. I just don't see it as a real peril, and I haven't heard any numbers. I just keep hearing about the threat, but I've never heard a thing where someone could tell me, yes, 840 people were hospitalized with scalp burns last year in New Hampshire. It's because those numbers don't exist. So I'll just leave it at that, and if need be, I can chime in again later. I hope that this will just be supported.
Representative Roy?
I would second his comments, and I would add one other comment. Some people have said that, you know, no one's being arrested for cutting their child's hair, or no one's being prosecuted for dyeing their girlfriend's hair. Well, that's true. Then it shouldn't be in statute. So let's fix it.
Okay. Representative Blackus?
Yes, and as I think the chair mentioned, we talked before, you know, having laws which are in place but are not enforced and leaving it to the discretion of the people enforcing it, I think is a very bad practice for a number of reasons. And I'm very strongly opposed to it. I mean, people are supposed to be able to know what the law is and follow the law. And, you know, if it's not written down under what circumstances the law implies and what circumstances it doesn't, that's not good. You know, maybe it wouldn't be a big issue in this case, but it can lead to discretionary enforcement where, you know, law enforcement or other people in authority can choose to apply the law to some individuals and not others for whatever reason. And the other thing is if people know that something's illegal and they're regularly breaking the law, that does not contribute to respect for the law either. And so for a number of reasons, it's just a very bad practice, and I support this bill.
All right. Representative Fontenot?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I cannot support this bill because even though I agree with the representatives that spoke before me that I don't think it should be against the law for a mother to cut the child's hair, this bill allows me to set up a barber shop in my driveway now and provide all those services for all of my neighbors and strangers with no regard to any of my skills or relationship to these other people. So, you know, for that reason, I think it's the reason that we have laws in place. I also hold an electrician's license and a realtor's license, but I don't think that people without those licenses should be able to set up shop all over town simply because they are not charging a fee. In my business, it's clarified that compensation does not make a difference on representation. So whether I get paid for my service or not, I'm still liable. So for that reason, I can't support this bill.
Thank you. Representative Saita.
A couple things. First, Representative Fontenot, the chances of setting up a barber shop in your driveway or doing massive work for free, that's a number as close to zero as I can imagine. But there's an issue that not surprisingly, I'll vote for the bill, but there's an issue here that deserves some thought and some study, and that's if it's a matter of public health and safety, the chemicals in the hair, scalp burn, I have to think about that. I'm not prepared. It's not a crusade I want to go on, but it's something that should be thought about. Because look, I can't tell you that I saw, or you would not be happy if I said, I saw a YouTube video this morning and I'm ready to take out your appendix because you've consented. And after all, it's two people, I'm not charging. There's something to be, I don't know I know where I want to go, but I don't want to study this issue. But there are elements here. You talk about public health or safety and you mean it it deserves some thought, and that's all.
All right. Representative O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I agree with the debate that this probably rarely happens, but and I can see somebody having the opinion that it is selective for certain people to enforce the law. But there's also a point that I think we must consider. In those situations where something becomes truly egregious that has occurred, where can the person fall back on and to have something that is in law that can apply? So therefore, I cannot support this bill because I think the current law is adequate, whether it's enforced or not. But in those egregious type of situations, it will apply a vehicle that can be used by the proper authorities if they deem fit that the situation was egregious, and allow the proper legal authorities, to which I have full faith, into our prosecutorial friends, the Attorney General's office, is to determine which cases are legitimately that can be tried. Thank you.
Representative Schuett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I sort of echo what Representative O'Brien just said. I was actually a little disappointed. I knew this would probably come up again. It's been tried a few times. And I was a little disappointed that the language came out so similar as to has previously been denied. I would like to see something that would ease the case of a family member cutting someone's hair, for example. But I think there does need to be something in law that would enable someone who does these kinds of things in a nefarious manner to be prosecutable. So I will be voting against this. So thank you.
Representative Fellows.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think one of the reasons I have to vote against this bill is that I think it opens up the opportunity for someone to open up a cosmetology parlor in their home and go completely under the radar, and they can take fees from the people they provide services to. And if an inspector can ever find them, which may not be the case if they don't have a sign or they don't advertise on the internet, then they will just go under the radar. And if the inspector does come by, they'll say, oh, well, I don't get paid. I'm just doing it for a friend. And the other thing that I'm concerned about is if we do that in this particular statute, do we have to do it in other places also? For anything that people, for putting, ointment on a kid's knee, for using prescribed medications that a doctor gives, where do you draw the line for this? And if the concern is within a family, it ought to say within a family and not do the remuneration edit to this statute. Thank you.
Representative Lekis.
If someone does this and causes someone else serious harm, there was concern that there was no legal recourse. I don't think that's true because, you know, in any case, if you harm somebody, they're open to a civil suit. You've committed a tort against them. And so if somebody does cause serious harm doing this, there is a remedy. And that could also act as deterrent from that possibility can act as a deterrent from somebody doing something particularly dangerous. I mean, it won't necessarily fix all problems, but at least the person harmed would get something possibly.
Representative Roy?
I would just, in response to some of the things Representative Fellows said, someone could do that now. This law doesn't change anything. Someone could open up a secret salon right now. So the law is irrelevant to that scenario. Second of all, I think that in a society such as ours, the old Latin phrase, to the buyer beware. We really need to let people have the decision. If someone decides, I'm going to have my girlfriend cut my hair, and it comes out horrible, well, she should have went to a licensed place to have it done then. I mean, it's the same thing if I have some body work done on my car by someone who's not licensed or trained and it comes out looking horrible. Well, I should have not gone to them. I should have paid the extra. You get what you pay for it. And in this case, it's not even paid for, it's free. So I just think that at some level, we have to trust our own citizens to make their own decisions.
Okay. Representative Bailey?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Chairman.
No, not this year.
I believe several times fees or payment have been mentioned where I believe it explicitly says that this exempts only those things provided without remuneration.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Thank you. Representative Goley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just need to speak to the buyer beware. I think a lot of laws are on the books to protect those that are vulnerable. We know our elderly are specifically vulnerable, and to just use the language, let the buyer beware, I don't think is something we should be using as a guideline. I think we're here to protect those citizens, and this is one way of doing that. So I'll be voting against this.
Representative Schuett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just rebut the comment of Representative Lakis about pursuing a civil suit if you have a problem. Number one, that would involve a cost to the victim to pursue that. And number two, that's time consuming. If someone is, for example, coloring people's hair involving chemicals and the problem involves damage to the health or disfigurement, whatever, that person basically could continue doing that if law enforcement couldn't step in right away because of the law in the length of time that it would take a suit to work its way through the court. Thank you.
Representative Roy?
I just wanted to clarify on the caveat emptor. Where necessary to protect, first of all, I don't think our seniors are in some great risk of rolled haircuts, but I think that where it's serious and it is dangerous, to the example that Representative Fontenot gave with electrical codes that can cause fires and electric shock is different than, getting a bad haircut and even and we talk about scalp burns. You can go to the store right now and buy products to dye your own hair at home. If we're so worried about that, perhaps we should ban those, and you shouldn't be able to do it yourself either. At some point it becomes, So yeah, it's not just, we're not throwing people to the wolves and say, figure it out for yourselves. But on some issues that are so simple as this, I do not think that we need to exert such government oversight.
Representative Grotta?
Thank you. I just want to make a comment. The products that are sold in the grocery store are nothing like the products that are used in a professional beauty salon. So I think that people need to understand that it's not the same thing.
Haircut, you can tell that I don't really know.
Just as
Right. And so basically we're making decisions on things that we're not really fully aware of. And what I'd like to say is if this this is something that's important to the people, the proponent of this bill, and there's something that they can come up with that would make the people who are opposed to the bill more palatable, such as only talking about family or relatives, I would be open to that. But as the bill stands, I'm not in favor of it. Thank you.
Representative O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the comment that hair products, yes, they are sold in the local market and everything, but also too, keep in mind, just because something is available to the public does not necessarily mean it meets the standards that are being discussed here. Case in point, many variety stores or other type of shops do sell marijuana type of pipes and devices and cigarette papers that I don't think are used for cigarettes. And as far as I know, federal law and state law still hasn't recognized the sale of marijuana, yet some of these byproducts are available to the public. But I just want to clarify that point. It is a people's choice on what to do already. Thank you.
Representative Schmidt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So again, I'll come back to a point that I've made in the past, that nobody's being prosecuted for cutting their kids' hair. It's always about cutting kids' hair. But it's a whole panoply of services that can be provided for nothing, for free, under this proposed law. And this is not a problem that is causing any kind of problem. It's a solution in search of a problem. And members, long-serving members long-time serving members of this committee will recall the instance that we had of the gentleman that came in. He and his wife had been in a mall where somebody was offering free teeth whitening.
I don't believe that's relevant, Representative Schmidt.
But the point is, it was offered for free. It was offered for free. And the assumption was because the person was wearing a white coat. They thought, well, they knew what they were doing. They were wearing a white coat. The woman got severely burned. Her lips and her gums were severely burned. So people who are messing around with chemicals and providing home services of this nature, it's not just hair cutting, would be, allowed to continue doing what they're doing, including free haircuts for the elderly. We heard that testimony in committee. And so we've rejected this in the past as a problem. And you hear that we're going to be voting against this time as well.
Thank you. Representative Fellows.
Yes, Madam Chair. I was wondering if you can confirm, does cosmetology include things like facial peels?
That's aesthetics.
Well, but which is also covered by this amendment. They're in that same chapter. So I just wanted to say that I've used over-the-counter products, Neutrogena, on my face that was supposed to be a moisturizer, and it caused me to end up with something that looked like a pretty bad sunburn. And if people are going to use more stronger products to do chemical peels, I think that there's definitely some danger to the public with this, because the cosmetologists and anesthetists are using procedures that go far beyond just haircuts. I agree, a haircut is not a big deal, but I think some of the other things that they do can be dangerous.
Thank you. Representative Saitek.
I just want to declare war on the elderly here. Representative Goley, you brought that up. I have excellent credentials in that department, and I'll take care of myself, thanks.
Thank you, Representative Saitek. Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, there's a whole genre of YouTube videos that I fell down the rabbit hole in once, all about people doing their own hair. And it's pretty funny, but some horrible results. So if you're ever bored, Google it on YouTube. And you may have heard of the Gorilla Glue incident. That was kind of recent. But more importantly, it is true that, and I will say, this is a area of society that maybe the majority of guys aren't as knowledgeable as we ladies, but you can get MRSA from a pedicure. If you have unsterilized hair equipment, you could even pass lice potentially. You could get a facial that was really trendy a couple of years ago that people were doing themselves that was giving other people hepatitis. So there are a number of health laws that I talked to my beautician and esthetician about. And certainly not all of them make the news, but there is a lot to the license that these service providers, you know what I mean, these beauty workers do that are serious and need instruction, serious chemistry, serious health understanding. And if you've seen the haircuts I've given my husband during COVID, you would want people to have a license. And so for that reason, really, I'm opposed to this bill.
Representative Allegra?
Yes. The reason that we talk about haircuts and clipping a child's fingernails is because, as much as we would like to separate the issues, they are lumped in under the same statutes. And so I'm not suggesting that someone perform podiatry on somebody, right? You need a license to be a physician. But I am suggesting that lumping somebody in who files their grandmother's toenails down is not the same as putting dangerous chemicals. I have to say, I agree wholeheartedly with Representative Fellows who said, where does it stop? That's exactly the point we've reached now. Where does it stop and where will it go? If I want to lend my friend $50, never mind family member, a neighbor. If I want to lend a neighbor $50, should that put me in violation of banking rules? Or should I be subject to banking rules? What about licensing for food preparation? If I want to cook a meal for a stranger, never mind a family member or a relative or a friend, for a stranger, should I be subject to licensing rules? What about administering medication? How many times, I know I've done it countless times, have you helped a person who wasn't capable of taking their own daily medication to take their medication on a daily basis? That's far more dangerous than the chemicals we're talking about. And again, the difference between the chemicals available at a hairdresser salon versus in your house, yeah, that also includes the difference between Head and Shoulders and Paul Mitchell, right? Paul Mitchell, you get in a hairdresser. So yes, there are occasions, I doubt, although I haven't been, none have been reported to me or presented here at this hearing or the other day. There may be occasions when somebody gets nits or a scalp rash or something like that, but we're still dealing with consenting adults. And if I want my friend or a perfect stranger to cut my hair, the government has no place putting their nose in my personal, private, consenting business. And to answer the last question, where does it stop? Do we go on to other things? I lay down the gauntlet here. Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Broda, you had a comment?
Yes, that last, I was going to say something, but the person before me reinforced it. We are, if you go back and listen to this testimony, I think you're going to be very surprised at how this has evolved from concerns to safety to government intervention. And that's not what we're here to do. We are not here to bring our political agenda or our personal agenda to this.
Excuse me, Representative Broda.
Yes, yes.
I believe that's approaching an inappropriate comment, so.
Okay, let me rephrase it, which, I'll take it back. We are no longer talking about our constituent responsibility or the responsibilities of the people of New Hampshire. And let me say that after listening to this conversation, very few members of this committee understand the difference between professional products and retail products. They understand very little difference between things that you can do at home and things that you can do in a professional at a professional institution.
Rhoda, please,
Yeah.
Representative Allegro is making a point of order that you can't tell him what he understands.
I'm not speaking to him. I'm speaking to the committee.
She's speaking of the committee.
Yes.
And I'm expressing my opinion, very much like the other members of this committee. And therefore, I tell you that what we are saying, or what I am hearing, is not the purview of this committee. We are here brought forth by our constituents to represent them and to do the thing that we've been doing to protect the people of New Hampshire. And this conversation does not lend credibility to the understanding of this business of cosmetology. So I'm just telling you that I rarely speak like this. I think the people who know me on this committee understand that. And I think I have some credibility in this committee as my second term, as someone who's very reasonable and somebody who is willing to listen and talk to people and see their side of their argument and being collaborative. I cannot see where we can agree on this if we continue in this direction. And I am going to vote against this bill, and I'm going to ask that we retain it, because this is going to be a conversation that we're going to have continually. And I would like to have a mutual understanding, Madam Chair, which is something that you strive for as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Goley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I too just want to reiterate some of the things that were said or have been said during this exec session, that this bill that we've heard numerous times was about individuals giving haircuts to their children. I think that was the majority of the testimony we used to hear about this bill. This bill goes well beyond addressing that issue. I have no problem defining a family member or something of that nature if we're going to do it. But this is opening up that whole section of the statute to dealing with whether you collect money or not. That is the difference of what we're talking about. I mean, the majority of the testimony was about giving haircuts to family members. So if we want to address that issue, let's address that issue. So I too would be willing to retain it so we can actually address the issue that was brought before this committee. And we'll vote against the ought to pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Schultz.
Yes, I just want to reiterate the point that and expand on the point that Representative Schmidt said, and that this is a bill in search of a problem. It doesn't fix an issue that's happening. Many of us during COVID, I made the joke about my husband's bad hairdos, and I am a horrible hair cutter. And I joked that there's a reason why you need a license for this. But really, this would dismantle the industry. This would dismantle the well-trained, well-earned licensing of this industry. And the people who do this go on, some of them, if they're good at it, to continue to train others. And it takes years sometimes for a hairdresser or an esthetician to build a client list, because they have to prove that they're good at it with their continued education, with their continued updates from their organizations that oversee these professions. And, you know, people are still going to be doing, for as long as we're, many of us staying at home or self-quarantining, the COVID haircuts. None of us have gotten in trouble. Too many of us have posted the horrible pictures on the internet, and no one called the police on me. Maybe they should have. Bad haircuts. But seriously, the amount of training and the amount of professionalism that this industry has, in an industry where technically most of the people who do it are contracted to do it. So they're essentially, in many ways, self-employed. This is an issue around businesses that people make a livelihood at, and this would decimate that. This would essentially replace all of that hard work and training and give a lack of confidence to the average granite stater that they're even going to someone who knows the basics about which chemicals to mix, or is your equipment that cuts the cuticles on my toes gonna give me MRSA? We need to keep this industry intact. It doesn't have the sort of barriers and roadblocks that would actually keep people from doing it for any negative reason. It's so that they have the training and understanding to do it correctly.
Thank you, Representative Lekis.
Just a response to an earlier comment. I mean, I respect all the members of this committee, and I appreciate the collegial interaction we've had. But I think we are representing our constituents, and there are differences of opinion between different people, and different areas are different as to the extent to which government should be controlling what they're doing, to what the extent to which there should be occupational licensing. And I don't think it's inappropriate for people to reflect the views of some of their constituents. Thank you.
All right, I think everyone's had a chance to speak on this. Is there anyone who wishes to? All right, seeing none, the motion is ought to pass by Representative Allegro on House Bill 606. The clerk will call the roll.
Representative Roy.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Yakubovich.
Yes.
Representative Lekis.
Yes.
Representative Allegro.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Yes.
Representative Lanzara.
Yes.
Representative Santonastaso.
Yes.
Representative Goley.
No.
Representative Schuett.
No.
Has Representative Judy returned?
Don't, Sam.
Okay, Representative Schmidt.
No.
Representative Fellows.
No.
Representative Funt, no.
No.
Representative Groda.
An adamant no.
I believe you skipped Representative Schultz.
I did skip Representative Schultz. Representative Schultz.
No.
Representative Groda.
No.
Representative O'Brien.
Nope.
And the chair.
Yes.
Okay, in this case, I guess it's 10-8.
All right. Any objections to consent?
Yes.
Oh, darn. Well, in that case, is someone going to write a minority report?
I would
Yes.
say probably we have until Monday, right?
Yes, definitely will want to write one.
All right. Who should, Representative Schultz, I'm going to put you on the hook. You can collaborate with anyone you like.
Okay.
All right.
Motion is ITL.
The motion is ought to pass.
I'm talking about the
You're
minority
recommending
report.
ITL, Representative Schultz?
I need to record
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
Okay. 2, 4, 6. All right, that's 6 down. All right.
Oh, yeah, what,
Yes.
no, I did.
Let's get,
I
let's
did
let's
one.
get at least one more before we break. And we will not be able to finish 544 until Representative Judy gets here.
So we'll recess that.
So we will recess that one. Representative Jakubowicz, would you care to make a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair. I move to amend House Bill 155, and the amendment is from Representative Edwards, 2021-0396H.
All right. So the motion is ought to pass, and he presents amendment number 0396 to House Bill 155.
Adopt the amendment.
To adopt the amendment, yes.
This is.
Is there a second?
Representative Allegro.
I am so sorry. What is the amendment again? Because I'm gonna have to look that
It's
up.
amendment number 0396H. It's one of the ones that Representative Edwards presented at the hearing.
Oh, right. Thank you.
And it declares August 9th as the International Day of the World's Indigenous People. As per the
UN.
the UN's approach. All right, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you. We've listened to a lot of testimony. I've learned a lot. I remembered a little bit. The history of always interested me. Gave me a chance to delve into human migration. I happen to be a migrant myself in recent times, but I learned that the people, well, the humanity originated in Africa and then spread out throughout the world. And about 14,000 years ago, the human population, tribes from Asia went through Eurasia, went through Siberia, Bering Straits, and arrived in America. And then obviously it took multiple generations for them to travel throughout North America, South America. They spread out everywhere. And it took them that long, and up until probably 1,000 years ago, nobody else showed up on this continent. And then 500 years ago, Columbus. And then, well, I'm one of the most recent migrants, about 30 years ago. So, so all these travel stories and history fascinated me, and I believe that the people who got here first definitely deserve a day. The indigenous people, they've arrived here again, multiple generations. They traveled throughout the world by foot. And back in the 1994, the UN recognized these, well, people, the migrants, the travelers, the great travelers that gotten here, and established that August 9th should be known as the Indigenous Peoples' Day. And this is why I'm making the motion with this amendment. And I believe this is what we should do here in the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Allegro?
I think that says everything that needs to be said. And in addition, I think it's provides a little bit of satisfaction for everyone that might be on opposing sides of the this debate. So that's why I second and support the amendment.
Representative Schultz?
I actually appreciate all the things, especially Representative Jakubowicz said. I would love to hear more about your immigrant history here in America. I think that the UN doing an Indigenous peoples holiday or commemoration, whatever it is officially called, is though a uniquely different thing than what the sponsors of this bill are trying to address. You know, there are still multiple places around the world where there is no representation at the United Nations from a variety of, matter of fact, there's a group called the Unrepresented Peoples Organization, and I knew some folks that were involved in it from the Kurdish community and from the Palestinian community. I think that though that is just not the same thing that the bill authors want to address, and as well-intentioned as the amendment is, I would like to suggest that we vote on the actual bill itself. We've had this bill a number of times now, especially the main sponsor, Representative Horrigan, has expressed his desire for this not to be amended. And because it is connected to a specifically American movement and a New Hampshire movement that specifically wants to ditch Columbus Day, whether you agree with it or not, it is a movement to ditch Columbus Day for an Indigenous Peoples Day specifically for New Hampshire. And the people who were here, as Representative Yakubovich so eloquently put it, you know, sure, the land bridge, originally Eurasian people, but they were not discovered by Columbus, who never stepped foot on American soil, nor Puerto Rican soil, etc. And the bill authors definitely want the vote and the bill to address this specific issue. Not because I had suggested amendments in the past, but the moment that the lead sponsor said, no, I don't like your amendment, I withdrew it. And I think that it would be a disservice to the intent of this bill to not just vote on the intent of the bill as it exists, as written, despite the good intentions of the amendment authors. That's all I'm going to say.
Representative Schultz, that's very nice of you to say so, but it's not his bill anymore. It's our bill, and amended. And I am sure I am not alone in having presented a bill that was significantly changed by the committee or the House or the Senate. It's one of the risks of putting forth a bill is that it can be changed. Representative Goley, and then.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that bit of advice, because I was going to also make that statement that the bill is in our hands now as a committee. But I also want to speak to the amendment. As you know, this has come before us numerous times now, and was put to a subcommittee to try and come back with a day that they chose. And it's unfortunate that there is a world recognition of this on August 9th. And I'm not sure why they are against having this day known as Indigenous Peoples Day. I understand if there is an issue with the Columbus Day recognition, then change the name of Columbus Day, and not just to Indigenous Peoples Day when you already are recognized on August 9th. So I think with this amendment, we are recognizing that day. We have in statute a number of days that are national days that we recognize as state days, such as National Teachers Day. We have that in state statute to recognize that along with National Teachers Day. And I think this goes along with that same precedent that we have set. So I will support this.
Thank you. Representative Saitek.
There is a National Teachers Day, or I've never heard of it. I've been in the game for about 25 years.
You weren't paying attention.
National Teachers Appreciation Day, yes.
Yeah, well, terrific. I'm appreciated. Next. What I want to say is, what I'd like to say is, if I could talk a little about the issue in general. I heard last year when this was discussed, one representative said that we don't want to be too far out ahead of our populace in the sense that we need to do some education about Columbus. I thought that was a very wise thing. I don't know how we go about that, by the way, but that was pretty, I thought that pretty interesting, good comment. I would be in favor, having been educated, now I'm a committee of one here, about Columbus. I just assume get rid of the name entirely. I'm not sure. I don't want either of them, by the way. I just assume not have any mention of Columbus or Indigenous Peoples Day personally, but that takes me down the rabbit hole of debating Indigenous peoples. I can probably support the amendment, but I'd like to see it go farther and remove the name of Columbus from that day. I'm not ready to take up the man the ramparts for it, but that's how I feel. And that's that.
Okay, Representative Schmidt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I would like to begin by saying this is a New Hampshire bill. It's a New Hampshire issue. We have indigenous people in this state who are descendants of people who have been here for 13 or 14,000 years by the scientific reckonings. And they were never driven out like some tribes were in the southern part of the East Coast. The so-called Trail of Tears story comes to mind. But the Abenaki and the other indigenous people of this area and their descendants are still here. They weren't driven out. They've never gone. They were here then. They're still here. And for those people, Columbus Day is an annual slap in the face. And it's a slap in the face, really, in many respects, of Italians as well. Christopher Columbus is not an exemplar of Italian culture. He is not somebody who should be celebrated. If there was a lack of understanding at one point of his true history.
Excuse me, could you continue to speak about the amendment rather than about Columbus Day?
Well, the amendment doesn't go in the direction we need to go. It's a step in the right direction, but the indigenous people who are here, they are capable of celebrating their own existence on their own. They don't need our help. It's Columbus Day, which is an annual slap in the face. So I will not be supporting the amendment because it doesn't go where we need to go, which is to get rid of Christopher Columbus celebration.
Thank you.
Italian culture is wonderful. That's where we needed to also come down. A celebration of Italian culture is not accomplished by celebrating Christopher Columbus.
Thank you. Representative Fellows.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm all for having recognition of Indigenous Peoples Day, but I don't think it belongs with the holidays. I looked in the statutes to see if I could find some kind of definition that shows me the distinction between making something a holiday and putting it in the proclamation list. So I think that I'd be happy to see Indigenous Peoples Day in a proclamation. I'd be happy to see Christopher Columbus Day be taken out of the holidays. I'd be happy to see an Italian recognition day with the proclamations, but adding this to the holidays, I think makes me concerned that in the future, all of these proclamation bills that we've received this year will start showing up as recommendations to add them as holidays.
Thank you. That's a valid concern. Representative O'Brien.
Could just ask a question.
Oh, wait a second,
Chair?
just Lacus, you have a question?
Being new to EDNA, what is the technical difference or the implications of something being a holiday versus a proclamation?
A holiday is frequently a day off from work, which is an issue in terms of cost. Columbus Day happens to be a federal holiday.
But so what I'm wondering is, would this bill has it a holiday, but it's not on the same day as Columbus Day, it's a new day. So I mean, would this actually cause it to be a day off of work, or would that have to be explicit?
That would have to be explicit.
Thank you.
We had it explicitly one year. I remember that. Representative O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think at this particular time, enough has been said and I'll pass. Thank you so much for recognizing me.
Thank you. Representative Sytek.
Just want the record or the history to note this is about as close as I've ever gotten to agreeing with Schmidt.
Yes, Representative Roy.
If we were debating not the amendment, the bill, I would actually support a world or a human exploration day in replace of Columbus, because in my mind, that's what that was about, exploration and the need for us to go beyond the next horizon. So to me, it's not really about a man or a day. It's about the whole thing we should be celebrating is exploration. But since we're talking about the amendment, I will be voting to pass the amendment.
All right. Everyone else? Okay, thank you. The motion is to adopt Amendment 0396H to House Bill 155. The clerk will call the roll.
Representative Roy,
Yes.
the clerk supposes he'll vote yes. Representative Pearson,
Yes.
Representative Yakubovich,
Yes.
Representative Lekis,
Yes.
Representative Allegro,
Yes.
Representative Bailey,
Yes.
Representative Lanzara,
Yes.
Representative Santonastaso,
Yes.
Representative Goley,
Yes.
Representative Schuett,
Yes.
Is Representative Judy arrived? No? Okay, Representative Schmidt.
No.
Representative Schultz,
No.
Representative Fellows,
No.
Representative Fontno,
Yes.
Representative Groda,
Yes.
Representative O'Brien.
Yes.
The chair,
Yes.
3 noes, 15 yeses. 3, 6, 9.
All right.
12, 15-3 on the amendment.
15-3, and the amendment passes. Your motion is ought to pass with amendment?
Yes, please.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, by Yakubovich and Roy. Do you wish to speak to your motion, or?
I think enough has been said. Thank you.
I concur.
Okay. All right, I would like to comment that I think Representative Roy's point is very well taken, because regardless of what we might think of Columbus as a person, he did accomplish connecting the hemispheres, and that changed the world forever. And I think that is something that we should be noting. Anyone else have a comment, question? Representative
I'd
Saitek.
still like to see Columbus ditched, but I'm not going,
One step at a time.
one step at a time.
Representative Allegro?
Yeah, we never thought of this as an Italian celebration. You might notice by the vowel at the end of my name that I qualify. And we were never taught in school that Columbus was a great man. We were taught that he was a great explorer. And two facts remain. One is that his exploration changed the course of human history. And B, whether or not he was brutal, he only reflected humankind in general, because there was savagery and slavery and brutality performed by nations and tribes on every continent on the planet. So I don't celebrate Christopher Columbus for being a great man. In fact, I don't celebrate it at all. I just acknowledge that that day is designated to recognize a great explorer, and that's what Christopher Columbus was.
The other thing, of course, is that Columbus Day in New Hampshire is the official end of the summer tourist season. And that's when the Grand Estate ambassadors switch from khaki pants to black or navy. Saitek.
Real quick, Representative Allegro, he was even beyond a man of the times. We had civilization actually was occurring, and he was just beyond.
May I disagree? That's not necessary. I think that there are multiple historical accounts, and that one has become very popular and in vogue lately. I think it's greatly mistaken.
Okay. Well, okay.
All right. Representative Schuett.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I just wanted to say, if Representative Saitek wants to introduce that bill next session, I will co-sponsor it with him.
All right, Representative Schultz.
Okay.
I just would, there's all this discussion about Columbus, but at this point, is there any reference to Columbus at all, given how the amendment is?
It's only that Columbus Day remains unchanged in the statute that is being amended.
Because it's confusing. That actually is a part of the wording.
Part of a what?
It didn't change the title.
I'm
did it?
sorry, I'm just going to be honest to say that I haven't read the amendment. I just knew I was going to be against it. But does it leave any reference to Columbus in the amendment or the bill as amended if it goes through?
No, the title is changed to say establishing a holiday commemorating Indigenous Peoples' Day, and then that is left as Columbus Day is left unchanged along with Election Day, Veterans Day, and Thanksgiving Day. That's just what's there already.
Thank you.
Okay.
Representative Schultz, all that will change next year with Representative Schewitz in my bill.
Right. Anyone else? I don't think we've said our piece. In that case, the motion is to adopt with amendment House Bill 155.
Oh, and we have Representative Judy joining us.
Excellent.
He was not.
Let's call him in and have him introduce himself. Representative Judy, would you state your presence?
Yes, I'm home. My wife, she's in another room.
Excellent. We have the motion now is ought to pass with amendment on House Bill 155.
Is he here when the question was put?
Yes.
Okay. Representative Roy.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Pearson.
Yes.
Representative Yakubovich.
Yes.
Representative Lekis.
Yes.
Representative Allegro.
Yes.
Representative Bailey.
Yes.
Representative Lanzara.
Yes.
Representative Santonastaso.
Yes.
Representative Goli.
Yes.
Representative Schuett.
Yes.
Representative Judy.
Oui.
Representative Schmidt.
Yes.
Representative Schultz.
No.
Representative Fellows.
Yes.
Representative Fontenot.
Yes.
Representative Grote. Representative Grote.
My apologies. Yes.
Representative O'Brien.
Yes.
And the chair.
Yes.
Okay. It looks like 18-1.
Do you object to consent, Representative Schultz?
No.
Okay. That makes it easier. Okay. All right, since Representative Judy is here, I would like to suggest that we complete House Bill 544 and then declare victory to go home. So resuming the 544, we have adopted the amendment and we are ready. The motion, Representative Roy, is ought to pass as amended.
Yeah, I don't believe that. Did I make the motion?
Not yet.
Okay. I move House Bill 544 ought to pass as amended.
With amendment.
With amendment.
With amendment.
We need a cheat sheet.
Second.
Second.
Okay.
Yakubovich.
Who was the second, please?
Yakubovich.
Thank you.
Okay. So we are ready to discuss this. Do you wish to speak to your motion?
I do. So when I first saw this, I didn't really understand what it was about. And I had to do some research. And when I did, I was really disturbed to find out what was being taught. Some children in workplaces that this concept of this critical race theory that that we're making some people apologize to other people based on the color of their skin. And I found that deeply disturbing and insulting. And I've heard some people push back emails saying, you know, this is about free speech. The funny thing about free speech is while you're free to say what you want, you're also free to walk away and not listen to it. And this bill targets people who aren't free to walk away and not listen to it. This is compelled speech and compelled listening. Now, should critical race theory be able to be discussed? Absolutely. But you should also have the right to not have to listen to it or walk away from it. And what we have is we have people that are in schools or in places that are threatened, terminated if they don't want to listen to it. It is, in fact, a theory. It's not something that's proven. And I found the whole concept to be disturbing in the least, that people are being made to do it, that children are being able to stand up in front of a class and apologize for their whiteness. It's antithetical to everything that I've ever been taught about treating people equally. But again, I respect the right to have that thought. And if people want to think, tell each other it, and even teach it, so long as it's not mandatory that people have to listen to it. So based on that, I think that it's appropriate that we pass this bill and ban mandatory teaching and listening to this concept. Thank you.
Okay. Representative Schuett.
Thank you. Just a question of the chair, I suppose. I'm curious, and I apologize if I did we get an update on the sign-ins that have occurred since we started acting on this bill? If it was in the email, I missed it.
The sign-ins, the official sign-ins closed at midnight of the day of the hearing. The additional emails we have all received are up to us to interpret and count.
All right, so the count that I had on that day is what was on the sign-in.
That was people that signed in specifically. Other people have chosen to send us their thoughts.
Right, thank you.
And at my count, it's something over 300.
All right.
Actually, I don't think this will work. Representative Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, one looks at the language of the bill, and as I said to the prime sponsor, Representative Ammon, the statements that are made in the bill are indisputable that no one is better or worse than anyone else because of his or her age, sex, race, religious belief, or whatever. None of that is arguable. But the problem is not the language of the bill. The problem is that the bill itself is fundamentally not workable and antithetical to the structure that we currently have in the state of New Hampshire, in that school instruction, public school instruction, is in the hands of the school districts and the school boards of those districts throughout the state. It's a local control issue. So what is being taught in the state of New Hampshire or not being taught in the state of New Hampshire is a local control issue. And in point of fact, the alleged thrust of the bill is very broad. It's overly broad and unworkable because it not only would prohibit the teaching of critical race theory, although it doesn't name critical race theory, but all the proponents, or virtually all the proponents of the bill, have focused on critical race theory, which may or may not be an odious and hostile and racist concept. I'm not willing to devote a lot of my time into determining what it is. The bottom line is that the bill goes too far because it would in the testimony of the ACLU, it is unconstitutional. And if you look into it, you see that the executive order on which it is almost word for word patterned was struck down just a few months after former President Trump issued the executive order. So the bill, if it were passed, it would almost certainly be immediately enjoined and likely struck down as being too vague, overly broad, and so forth and so on. So the problem is that no one denies, or very few people would deny, that we still have problems with discrimination in this state as well as in the nation. We still have problems with racism, ageism, sexism, and so forth. So the fact that the bill, prohibits discussion of those issues, but the problem is it goes too far and would not be acceptable under our Constitution, in my opinion, and the testimony that we heard. And we heard that from the New Hampshire School Administrators Association in opposition. I've already talked about the fact that it's a local issue, but above and beyond that, and more importantly, is critical race theory. And I've checked into this. Critical race theory is not being taught in the state of New Hampshire. Certainly is not being taught at the elementary school level, and the courses that are taught are very often not only well-intentioned but well-designed courses to deal with the issues of slavery, racism, sexism, ageism, and so forth. And they likely would also come into conflict with this statute if it were adopted and enacted. So the bill is simply not a good idea. It's too broad. It engages issues that it doesn't intend to engage. What we should do, especially since critical race theory is not really widespread in New Hampshire, if it's being used at all. What we should be doing with this bill is retaining it and looking at the issue, because unlike the pandemic, which started apparently in China, and then very swiftly got to our shores, both East and West Coast, and has spread everywhere. This is not something that's like a pandemic. This is something which is clearly a matter of choice. And whatever state one may encounter CRT, critical race theory, it's not an issue in New Hampshire, nor is it inevitable. And in point of fact, our schools are dealing with the real issues, the issues of racism and sexism and so forth. And critical race theory is not being promulgated, being taught, or being spread around the state of New Hampshire. There's no urgency about getting this in to stop this evil practice from contaminating our state. It's not here, and there's no a likelihood, given my discussions with school authorities, that it will be adopted in our local schools whatsoever, because it is very controversial at the very least, and counterproductive based on the research I've done. So we are again in search of a problem with this solution, which is not workable and is almost certain to be enjoined if it ever gets through the Senate and or gets signed by the governor, which I strongly doubt.
Thank you, Representative Smith. I would just for the record indicate that the bill does not in any way prohibit discussion of racism, or anything of the sort. It prohibits the things outlined in critical race theory. Representative Allegro.
Yeah, I would like to point out that there's the title of this bill is Divisive Concepts. In fact, the term critical race theory is not even mentioned in it. So arguing that critical race theory is not a problem really is not germane to this bill. What is germane to this bill is racism. which and I hope everybody here abhors. I looked online to pick up the Oxford and Merriam-Webster definition of racism. Words and definitions do still have meaning and weight. It says prejudice, and I'm shortening this, prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group. Well, that is exactly what, and I'll use critical race theory as an example, but I mean all of its allied hypotheses. That's exactly what they teach. To use street jargon, it keeps the ills and the misbehavior of all of humankind on the backs of one race, one group, and that's principally white men of European descent. By definition, that is racism. I hope that the whole committee will join me in abhorring racism. And by the way, this is not an issue of First Amendment restriction of free speech violation. We live in our daily lives now with restrictions on our First Amendment rights in all sorts of venues, in all curriculums. For instance, and in all of our daily behaviors, we are not allowed to express racism in equal opportunity institutions, most of which are required by law, or in housing, or in curricula. I'm sure that if our school curriculum taught that all African Americans are to blame for some particular ill in society, that there would be little to no objection. But that's actually the way it is now. You will have your money sucked out from under you by the state and the federal government if you attempted to propose that hypothesis. White, black, yellow, red, no one should be teaching our children. They are, as we've heard testimony, they are teaching our children that white people are shameful, racist bigots, and that they're the only one. And it's just wrong, no matter what color you are. I believe in Martin Luther's great statements.
Thank you, Representative Goley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I go along with Representative Schmidt's comments. I won't go on long, but I just do want to point out a section of the bill that still, I think we heard in testimony, could be or is unconstitutional by requiring contractors with states, telling them what they can and cannot do with their employees and with their own private dollars. And for that reason, I cannot support this bill. I think we had strong testimony on that. And with that still in the bill, there is a problem. And like Representative Schmidt, I think it will be ruled unconstitutional. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Judy, you can go now, or you can go.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. You hear me clearly?
Yes, we hear you well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. HB 544. This bill is an attack on First Amendment rights. Attack directly a category of people. After all bad souvenirs, right now we need a healing bill, not a divided one like this. Actually, New Hampshire has a diversity population. I am one of them. I am one of them who represent people of color who does not have a voice. I am firmly opposed this racist bill. Members of the committee, please vote this bill HITL, please. I am urging you to oppose this racist bill. The passage of this bill will detract, not contribute. We we need to go forward, not backward. I remember 2 years ago, we tried to bring something about slavery and stuff like that. Clearly, our chair, Honorable Terry Troy said, why you have to bring all those bad souvenirs?
Yeah.
So I never forgot that. So, Mr. Chair, please don't pass this bill. I am deeply concerned about this 6 and 6 years bill. The honorable members, Democrat, Republicans, we can do better than that. We are here to make a difference for our beautiful state, not to harm Black, homosexual, lesbian, or bisexual, or transgenders. All of us, we are children of God, the Creator, the unique Creator. He loves you. He loves Black Jean Judy the same way. Us, we try to divide the country. We try to divide human beings, but God asks us, the Creator, He asks us to love one another. L'esclavage est le crime le plus hideux que la terre n'a jamais connu. Slavery is the worst crime the world never known. We're not going to come back in slavery again. We're not going to come back with like a master's. Right now, you see China, the primary school until university. The state rep in China, they vote. Kids have to go to school 7 days a week. You know why? Because they want to become the greatest. If we try to go back, we are going to wasting our time. And by the time we're wasting those times, China will be the greatest. That I know what to. But this bill, he's going to create between kids and kids in school a bad influence. Members of the committee, I urge you to defeat this racist bill. What we need in New Hampshire is peace and love. Peace and love we need in New Hampshire. Equality, fraternity for all. God, our Creator, asks us to love one another. He didn't talk about race. He didn't talk about color. He asked us for love. I am a man of God. I don't believe Representative Goley is superior than me. I don't believe the honorable members, white honorable members, are more than me. I never think like that, and I don't believe in those things. I believe in love. I believe in respect. I believe in fraternity, because we are in this earth. We have an example right now in NASA. You see NASA send Perseverance and the Mars. You see what China doing now? He's saying something up there in Mars to take pictures. And next time you will see China go inside the Mars like us. By the time we are playing black and white for several years. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. bring and leave us a lesson to learn. You cannot judge Jim Judy because he's black. No, you have to judge me because of my character. You have to judge me since 2005. I've been there in Indiana until today. So don't wait when Jim Judy passed away to tell my wife and my kids and my grandkids and my daughter-in-laws, oh, Jim was a good man, oh, respectful man. No, you have to respect me right now by the time I am alive here. I have 7 grandchildren. I can tell you mixed children, white and black. If we pass this bill, you're going to hurt me, not only personally, but the generation and generation you're going to hurt me. So it's not easy to be minority, but I see it's easier for some white people, I don't say all, for some white people to be happy to try another race down. But remember, all of you, there is a creator. Remember, all of you, God is watching us. What I'm seeing in COVID-19, I like reading. I saw Black, Spanish, Haitians, Chinese, the whole world. Coronavirus go with them. I don't see any superior. I don't see any Superman because we are the same thing. You cannot judge me because of my color. You can't judge me by my act, the way I act in the society, the way I react in the society. But be smart, don't pass this bill. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the Republic, for which we stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Not justice for some, justice for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Judy. Just for the record, regardless of how the vote goes, I love you, man. You're okay.
No problem.
Representative Saitek?
No one can disagree with anything that Representative Judy has said. I wanted to speak more to the bill. And Representative Goley, I understand about the contractors. I'm looking at this from the prism of a teacher who wants to be appreciated, I guess. And that's, for me, this bill is symbolic. It sends a signal that the classroom is for teaching anything you want to teach, but it is the classroom is not for indoctrination. And I don't see this, I see this being law, if it were a law, being invoked any more than a father being indicted for cutting his son's hair. So that's all I have to say.
Representative Schultz?
Okay. I've actually written my remarks down, which I so rarely do. And I've also chosen my words very carefully. I want to be clear. I'm not disparaging anyone personally in what I'm about to say. I'm focusing on the content of the bill. This bill is an awful product of the race-baiting dog whistle politics of the Trump era and the fake battle against cancel culture. But this isn't just some cut and paste of an executive order. This actually signals an embrace of Trump's bigoted greatest hits with anti-Semitism.
I am afraid that is a bit inflammatory, and since it is not a copy of the executive order, it is a separate bill. Please tone down your remarks.
Well, I want to be able to address the specifics of the bill, because I don't think that was
Please do.
attacking
Don't mention,
anyone.
don't mention ex-President Trump.
Well, that's hard because that's where this movement has come from. But let me check my remarks. Let me see. I think that's my only other mention of him. I will say there has been a rise, not specifying when or who, of anti-Semitism, sexism, homophobia, and white supremacy in the common discourse. I suspect most of us know that were this bill to be signed by the governor, it will be declared unconstitutional. I suspect most of us know this bill will never become law. So why do it at all? Is it really worth it to throw red meat at an albeit large segment of Republicans? To take the side of a small segment of ultra-conservative activists over the inherent bias training that is so mainstream it is laughable? To put a fake battle over cancel culture ahead of the urgent need to face racism head on with an honest, albeit often awkward, society-wide conversation about our differences? Or is it that good old game of divide and distract? Today happens to also be the day in a different committee when a very popular minimum wage bill, HB 517, is being put forward, which I also happen to be the lead sponsor. Does HB 544 distract? Oh, there's Trump's name again. I was going to say the racist relic of the Trump era, but I won't say that. Gets more ink and airplay than this bill? Or does the minimum wage bill get less ink than this bill? Which I believe the minimum wage is also supported by most Republican rank and file voters overwhelmingly. One can deny it, but we all know racism is really in America. We all know which of our neighbors or colleagues or members of our families hold blatantly racist views. And the blatant example of systemic racism are undeniably on horrific display in America, from the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, say their names, to the separations in our neighborhoods with the remnants of redlining, to all the significant disparities and all the statistics from unemployment to COVID deaths to infant mortality. Systemic racism is unfortunately alive and everywhere, including in New Hampshire. At its roots, all race really reflects is where our ancestors are from and how much melanin is in our skin. I ask you, dear colleagues, please kill this bill, do the right thing, and vote against ought to pass so ITL can get the majority of our votes. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Schultz. I believe you've been rehearsing your floor speech. Representative Fellows, Schuett, excuse me, Schuett is first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will just briefly state that I am of the opinion that has been expressed by a few of my colleagues that this bill will not pass constitutional muster. I would also point out to the chair that we all witnessed a member of the committee in the room violating the mask distancing policy. I would just call that to the chair's attention.
Thank you. Representative Fellows.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few minutes for my thoughts. Slavery was abolished 150 years ago, but does anyone doubt that racism is still alive and well in this country and this state? In 2020, we saw many examples of racism. Ahmaud Arbery, the jogger, shot dead when he stopped for a moment to look at the progress of a home under construction. I've done that before. Would those men have shot me? A Black teenager in a New York hotel attacked by a woman who had lost her iPhone. If I had been standing there with an iPhone, would she have attacked me? The newest trend in racism seems to be attacking Asian Americans who are just walking down the street. What will be next? If passing a law would eliminate racism, I would vote for it. But no law will cure our problem of racism. The only way to cure racism and other forms of bias is for everyone to really understand where and how it exists, and to know what it feels like to be on the receiving end. What we need is more education and dialogue about racism, not less. We need to encourage, not stifle, teaching about racism at all educational levels. It should be woven throughout the curriculum in ways that are age appropriate, and I trust our teachers to do that. Everyone deserves to feel safe, to be treated with dignity, and to have equal access to a quality education, job opportunities, housing, loans, and business mentorships. For this to come about, we need to talk about racism. I will vote against this bill because it is an unconstitutional restriction on free speech and will inadvertently protect racism rather than condemning it. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Fontenot.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just very briefly for me, while there may be numerous reasons to oppose this bill, as a member of the ED&A committee, I will oppose it simply because I have tremendous respect for Representative Judy. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this bill? Representative Roy.
To close. I just want to reiterate what I said from the beginning. I would not be voting for this bill if it prohibited the discussion of racism, the teaching of the struggles of different races in our history. This bill does nothing of the sort. This bill only prohibits racist teachings. So I will continue to support it. And as I said, I love Representative Judy, but I do not love the teachings that this bill would prohibit.
Anyone else? Representative Schultz.
Thank you. I do just want to address that point because I think it's important to understand, you know, there's a sort of, well, and this is the only word that's coming to mind, and I do not mean it as there's a whitewashing of this discussion, pun absolutely unintended, that really to me, and I believe to many folks, is the accidental step cousin twice removed of Holocaust denial. To approach racism the way this bill does is absolutely censorship. And to approach it in a way that assumes wrongly that somehow white children are being told they're racist, it's absolutely not the truth. This bill isn't needed.
Thank you for that comment, Representative Schultz. Is there anyone else? All right, Representative Sytek.
If I thought any of this was true, I would vote against this bill. I just don't read it the way you do, and that's enough.
Yes. Anyone else? Thank you. In that case, the motion is ought to pass with amendment on House Bill 544, and the clerk can call the roll.
Representative Roy?
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Pearson?
Yes.
Representative Yakubovich?
Yes.
Representative Lekis?
Yes.
Representative Allegro?
Yes.
Representative Bailey?
Yes.
Representative Lanzara?
Yes.
Representative Santonastasso?
Yes.
Representative Goley?
No.
Representative Schewert?
Absolutely not.
Representative Judy?
No, wait.
Representative Schultz?
No.
Representative Schmidt?
No.
Representative Fellows?
No.
Representative Fontenot?
No.
Representative Grote?
No.
Representative O'Brien?
No.
And the chair?
Yes.
10-9.
Right. Unsurprisingly. The motion is adopted. Is there to be a minority report? And if so,
Yes, there-
okay. President Goley, are you writing it?
Has not been determined yet. I will let you know this afternoon.
I'll put you down as responsible for making sure it gets done.
Okay.
All right.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Representative Judy.
I have a last word. I think all the representatives who vote against this bill, we are not voting against this bill not only for Jean Judy.
I'm sorry, I'm not catching what you're saying. It's my fault, I'm sure, but I can't hear you.
No,
Okay,
it's
what about
very-
now? What about now? Yes, you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I'm going to say that again. I think all of you who vote no for this bill, not only for Jean Judy, for my kids and my grandkids, and anything happen in New Hampshire, remember, all of you who vote yes for this bill, you take your responsibility and don't be sorry when those things start going wrong here in New Hampshire. I've been here since 1983. I never see a fight between black and white, even kids at school, in elementary school, high school, and university. Sometimes kids, they can fight with their kids, like I used to fight in Catholic school when I was in Haiti. Everybody is black. We fight in soccer team, soccer players. But this bill, take the note, this bill going to create something New Hampshire doesn't have right now. So you take your responsibility to know when those things start coming, to let yourself know, your conscience, to say, I am responsible for those things happening. Because not only this bill is unconstitutional, and this bill also is a racist bill. And I'm going to say thank you to all of you who voted against this bill. Representative Fontenot, thank you very much. And I'm going to say the last word. Representative Terry Roy, remember, we love each other. Remember that. We love each other. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for your comments.
Can I throw something?
Representative
I want to throw something in. I know you're weary of hearing me talk about being in high school, but I look very hard. I watch. We don't have very many blacks in our school. We have a fair number of Muslims or people appearing that way. And I just don't see it. I'm really watching. I don't hear bullying. I don't live in Lake Wobegon. The cure for this is when all of this dies out. We can't educate true racists. We can posture, we can give them training. It's not going to happen. They have to die out the way smokers, the way I'm even wearing a seatbelt. And when I drove, there was no such thing. I resisted it. I wear them. This is Representative Fellows is onto something with talking about education. Yeah, people just mingle in our school. I don't see it. That's enough. Too much.
Yes, thank you. Representative Fellows and Representative Schultz both want to rebut.
Me?
Well,
Representative Fellows.
thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say to Representative Sytek that it is out there. And I have a black friend who tells me he runs into it all the time. You just don't know because you're not, you don't have friends that are black. You don't talk to people who are black and ask them about this. This is what bias training is about, so people understand that it really is out there. And in terms of letting it just die out, it's been 100 50 years. It didn't die out yet. It's not going to die out anytime soon unless we all work together to do something about it.
Yes,
Thank
Thank you. That's true.
we all work together. That's because of our education. It will die out. Let's not root for it to continue. I'm sorry.
Since we have completed the vote and had a number of speeches on this, I think I will not entertain any more speeches on the,
Oh, Madam Chair, I just was going to tell a quick story about a racist who undid their racism.
I hope you will be able to share that at a more cheerful moment. It sounds like a good story.
Oh, please. let it-
So tell it. This was in response to Rep. Scitek, because he said racism or racists never get over being a racist. I will just say, growing up in the South, one part of my family is very racist. The other part of my family, fantastic, and I spent more time with them. Love them. I love all my family, by the way. And my brother adopted 2 children. One from Romania because they thought that he would look more like us. Turns out he's of the Roma people and is a person of color. And my niece from Guatemala, a Latina. So no one talked about it, but in the back of my head, I'm thinking, oh, please let the rest of my family embrace my niece and nephew. And they're wonderful. They've grown up to be wonderful adults. And as would happen at a family function, without even realizing it, one of my relatives started spouting off, saying a bunch of racist stuff in front of my niece and nephew. I grabbed that relative, pulled him to the hallway, and I said, have you noticed the skin color of your niece and nephew? And it had never occurred to them. But I do know from that moment on, our conversations around race were radically different. I wish for that for everybody that are racist. That moment to see that we really are important because of our differences. And I'll leave it at that.
All right, thank you.
Quick comment,
It's
Just real
it's
quick.
after 1 o'clock, and I personally am beginning to get a headache for lunch, for not having had lunch. So I'm going to close the official part of the meeting and leave the Zoom open for those of you who wish to make further comments to do so.
I would like to just say that everyone should experience the military service, because when I joined the service, the first thing I learned is that we were all equally worthless. And nobody was better based on their race. And I learned to put my life in the hands of other people of different colors than they, me. And by the end of it, the only color I saw was green.
All right, Representative Schmidt still wants to talk.
Are we taking a lunch break, or are we done for the day on bills?
We're done for the day. We've accomplished quite a bit, actually. And we will be meeting again on Monday with continue on the Youth Advisory Council and House Bill 141.
Thank you.
And Representative Schultz, I mean, when we're back to meeting in person, I'd be glad to continue the discussion over at Tandy's with you if you like.
I would welcome that. I think I've always loved serving on this committee, and there's a few of you I haven't met yet. I welcome that. I think that would be good.
I think we've met, but we didn't have much of a chance to talk.
Who's buying?
Yes, I do remember you, Representative Lickis. I do. And your wife, too. She loves to hug.
Yes, she does. Yeah, that's she does hug, but not as much as before with this COVID thing. So she's, my filling in doesn't quite take care of all of it.